Welcome to the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast. I'm Kendra Chapman, your host, and today's episode is all about civic engagement. Because when you care about your community, your country, and the future you're helping shape, energy, clarity, and stamina matter. As we gear up for local elections across many states this month, it's a powerful reminder that civic engagement isn't about policy, it's about people. It's about the volunteers, the advocates, organizers, and everyday citizens who show up. And that's why today's guest is so timely. Cathy Perez is a certified healthy eating and weight loss coach, certified yoga instructor, positive intelligence coach in training, and social justice advocate. She works with female activists and mission-driven organizations to build sustainable wellness and mental fitness plans. Because you can't change the world if you're running on empty. If you believe in participation, progress, and protecting your energy while you pursue what matters, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. Thank you, Cathy, for agreeing to come on the Go Slow to Go Fast podcast. I'm so happy to have you here and that you agreed to sit down and talk with us about wellness and balancing wellness with activism. But before we jump in, can you share with the listeners and viewers out there how you're going slow to go fast these days?
Thank you so much for having me, one, and connecting with me. But two, I love the name, the title, Go Slow to Go Fast, because that's exactly what I've been taught throughout my journey to wellness. So thank you for that one.
Mm-hmm.
I basically, at least in these last, I would probably say 5 years, definitely have taken the mindset of I get to always have my self-care in mind, right? Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing so, I get to, and I used to not realize I was doing this, but now I do. When I say no, I'm saying yes to me in some way, shape, or form. So that's been I guess you could say, my guiding light these last 5 years. When I say no, what am I saying yes to? And to whom am I saying yes to? So I always take that intention and say, with my decision, whatever it is it a no to me or is it a yes to me?
Yes. And that's a great lesson for us. I mean, just to be reminded of that when we say no, and if we're people pleaser, I'm one of those reforming people pleaser. I I might feel a little guilty saying no, but I've become more and more steadfast in that because I know I am saying yes to myself and my time and setting those boundaries and yeah, going slow to go fast. You got to take care of yourself first, right?
Absolutely. And the hardest part is, we're conditioned, especially as females, right, to be nurturing. And that's interesting in itself because over millennia, right, we have both, or however you feel yourself, and put yourself in that spectrum of gender, but there's both feminine and masculine energy in everyone. And so it's not as if we don't have both of those type of, I guess you could say, characteristics, but over millennia, females especially have been taught you must nurture. So that is ingrained in us, regardless if it was through nature or not. And so to your point, we still have that guilt involved when we do say no. But to get over that, like, I still have a tinge of guilt, but I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm over it in like 2 seconds versus when it used to really take me and like, oh, I'm saying no to this person. Is that really nice? So, it takes a long time. So it's in no way perfect. And I'm a recovering perfectionist as well.
Yes. Yeah. I think we're in the same club there too. Yeah. Perfectionism has also been kind of an area that I've been working on. It's okay if it's not perfect. I can't edit every little thing out of my podcast. And so I can't spend time doing that, right? We just can't. So our topic today is going to start off with what you've been spending time doing in the world of helping others in the wellness space. And you can talk a little bit about your background and what you've been doing for the past few years, just establishing yourself in the wellness world. I'd love to hear more about that and how you balance that with your activism process.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. So I've actually, ever since I was small, like as in a little kid, I've always been interested in health, wellness overall. Kind of funny. I actually, to go way back, it was interesting because I actually had an eating disorder when I was very young, when I was in my tweens. And it was because of my actual passion for health and wellness, believe it or not. And I got through that. Unfortunately, I didn't go to therapy, but that wasn't a thing back then. So anyway, I got through that. And but again, I've always had this distinction of I have a passion for health and wellness. So I never saw myself as a leader though in that profession. So I didn't go down that route. But I always, you found me, I was a gym blossom since, a long time ago. And always, again, it was always my foremost thought, how can I stay healthy? So fast forward, 2001, I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder, and that was an eye opener. But it explained a whole bunch. Okay, and then from that time on, for 20 years plus, right, I went on this journey of okay, how can I help mitigate what that means, right? But in all of that searching, I just got more and more informed. And then finally, my first fitness coach that I actually decided to spend money on, invest in me finally, I I was told like right off the bat, wow, I think you should be a coach. And I'm like, where did that come? The very first person, or maybe the second coach, actually, I lie. The first person was a relationship coach, and that didn't go very but, overall, it was through a lot of time in that passion and only wanting to help myself, but then that passion because of someone's just outright, like, "You really should be helping others." It was that catalyst that said, "Okay," and that was back in 2016. So from 2016 on, I took it upon myself to start really getting engaged and thinking, "How can I help others?" And so it started off with different certifications, and then now I find myself, in depth, all my different certifications all somehow deal with wellness. So that's why I call myself a wellness coach because I want people then, my clients, to become their own best health advocate. Like I help them create on-demand natural energy, right? That we all can do. And in doing so, they learn to fish. They learn to be their best advocate, and then they can help others, right? Whether they do it professionally or not is irrelevant. They have become confident finally in how they process, how do I create more wellness in my life? And that was really empowering for me. And then what's funny is that my clientele, I prefer them to be who I am. I'm a activist. I am a female activist. So my clientele are those who are like-minded, basically. So I mostly want to seek out people like me who are either in organizations that I support or have my same values and so forth. So that was the journey, and I'm here now.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it, we kind of live multiple lives when we're out there in the workforce. And if we volunteer, we do different things in the community. And we don't always see the alignment of all of those in one space. So it's cool that you bring that all together in the work that you do. Because I might be over here volunteering at a soup kitchen and then, providing maybe, you know, go packs or care packages to the military, but I'm not talking about it, I'm not sharing that, I'm not meeting people like me out there doing the same thing. So it's good to have that community, it's good to have that connection with others that are like-minded. So as you have like all these certifications too that I want to highlight. You have a healthy eating certification, you're a weight loss coach, you're a certified yoga instructor, you're professionally trained in virtually decluttering, or just a declutter pro. And also you dabbled in positive intelligence training. You're working on that as well?
Yes, I am working on a certification for that. So that's definitely a big part of how I've been able to circumvent a lot of what's happened in the last 2 years. But I would say all of those other certifications, obviously, right? They collectively they may not seem like they fit in to one kind of, I guess you say, umbrella, but to me, they always have. It's always been about wellness. How do I make myself better so then I can help others? Well, I want them to experience wellness, and that is in different formats. So I have all these different ways to help people, and wherever they want to fit in, then I stick them in that one little funnel, and then they'll decide to go, oh, we might want to stick around for this, this, and this. But either way, to your point earlier, I didn't originally want to say, because I was already, in coaching back in 2022 when I got activated as an activist. So it wasn't my intentionality to say, oh, I'm only going to talk to activists. No, I was like, oh crap, we just lost women's bodily autonomy on June 24th, 2022. I need to do something. So I activated myself, got trained for specifically to help me get my rights back. I wasn't thinking about, oh, these are going to be possible clients. But then as I got into it a year, I was like, I'm burnt out. How the heck did anyone live this lifestyle for so long and still not get the results they want on the political side, let alone now they burnt themselves out? I'm like, I've been an activist for a year and I'm already ready to call it quits. And I'm like, wait, that's telling me something. So that's when I realized, well, wait a minute, these activists, they're me. Well, I know the wellness part to help keep them from burning out. Again, I didn't get burned out, but I knew I was running down that path really quick.
Yeah, I've been thinking I wanted to be a coach for women in the leadership space because I was a leader myself and realizing that I was running on fumes. And I knew that I would have wanted a coach like me. So it sounds like you were also thinking on similar lines that you would have wanted a coach like you out there in that wellness space just to keep things, moving at a pace that's sustainable because activism is important, especially these days now with the politics and the world the way it is. And you want to make sure that people are voting. And you had shared in our pre chat, there were so many people who didn't vote, right?
90 million. And again,
90
keep in
million.
mind, that's not including, and I believe I specified this isn't including the people who could not vote, meaning people who were underage, people who
Mm-hmm.
had, for whatever reason, had, their voting rights not attached to them for a while. So that's not including, this is only, it was 90 million people who were eligible
Mm-hmm.
and may not have been registered, but could have registered, and or people who were already registered and did not do so,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they didn't
And,
vote.
full disclaimer, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are on. We're not interested in your, like swaying you and changing your mind because we know people that do vote. You're not going to change the mind of a person who's a voter, and we want you to vote. But we're talking about the people who didn't vote. That's what we're talking about. Getting those people out there registering and then voting.
Yep. I think that's the biggest, and some of those 9 million were never going to be moved one way or another, because they were just not into anything. Like they unfortunately in this country, for various nefarious reasons, civics has been just discounted completely in the education system. But to your point, there's many people in that 90 million who just never were engaged no matter what. And it's literally, I want to say that it's learned apathy. It's not because they don't necessarily care about what's going to happen to them, but they literally just are tuned out because they're taught to be tuned out.
Yeah, we're doing all these things online and we have opinions. People have opinions because they claim, they put them out there. But it's like, I don't know if it's just a disconnect of what to do about that and how to
Right.
become active in your community because it hurts my political science heart. I went to school for political science. I went into education, but you still want to make sure kids are informed and that they grow into adults that want to be involved in their community and whatever that looks like. I always wanted kids and I always wanted students to be involved and to volunteer in the community. I always wanted them doing acts of good service. I mean, when I was in school, I had to have so many hours of community service to graduate. So I don't know. I don't know what the disconnect is necessarily, but I think there is a disconnect somewhere in that of when you graduate school and then go into the workforce. There's something going on there that we're losing.
Well, and to your point, I came from what you would consider, a disadvantaged or socioeconomically disadvantaged area. And we didn't have that requirement of volunteering. I mean, you could join extracurricular clubs, which we had aplenty. And I'm sure many of those did that. In fact, I know many of them did. But we weren't required. Regardless of whether you're required or not, it should be part of your civic discourse no matter what throughout your life. I think that that's phenomenal that you were forced to, but nonetheless, you learn what it was like to be part of a community or to be in your community at an early age. And that makes a big difference, and I'm not just talking about community as in my church religion. I'm talking like in your community, people who may not be like you. There's others who don't share my
Values.
values. Yeah.
Yeah, beliefs. Yeah.
And when you
Sure.
find out, oh, they're humans like me
Hmm.
at an early age, it's a lot harder to discount them as not human later on.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's not been the case for many, many decades, I believe.
Yeah. And I mean, full disclosure, I went to Catholic school. For anybody out there listening that knows, but I think I can remember as a teenager going, I have to get 100 hours of community service. I think it was 20 a year before I graduate. So what am I willing to do? And then I would sign up to go into the areas that I thought would be fun or interesting. I served at a retirement center for seniors, and that was like, I thought, well, I could do this. And then I grew to love it. And I think, most teenagers aren't going to jump at the chance to volunteer. But once they do it, then they start to see the joy that you get out of helping others. And it could be animals, it could be humans, it could be any, lots of different ways to serve. But I think it starts there. And if you're not involved in a church or a synagogue or a temple of any sort, hopefully we can get kids involved in other ways and then they grow into adults that want to be involved in other ways.
Well, and to your point, and I think it's interesting that it was a private setting, right? That had you because they wanted you to be well rounded. And that should be every education's, uh, wherever you go to school, that should be the requirement, quite literally. Like, how can we make you better humans as you grow? And it's interesting because what is it, Generation Alpha or I forget, Z? I forget. My
Z,
niece, she's
Z
part
now.
of Generation Z, right? They literally are the most, what you'd call activists to the date now. They just don't necessarily have the numbers that say baby boomers did, right? But with that said, they are aware because unfortunately the current situation is so crazy that they have no choice now and they get to be activated because they literally their lives depend on it. And so they're so aware, hyper aware when really they shouldn't have to be, but other than just, okay, I want to get my 100 hours so I can graduate and volunteer, but do so in a way that's more beneficial, quite literally, right? Because you did it and then you became altruistic because of it. Whereas these kids are out there activists because they don't have a choice now. And that is astonishing. I mean, they want to do it and they know that they have no choice now. So they're like, okay, well, I better be out there. So they are aware, I think, even more so.
Yeah. So the awareness is there. If we could just harness it in some way, I think we would see hopefully some of that 90, you said million? 90
90
million.
million. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because that 90 million, right? So 78 million voted one way, 75 million voted another way, but 90 million did not participate. So, what does that tell you? Apathy is not useful at all. Like,
It's not to be ignored
in other
either.
words, I would have rather had the outcome. I know, let me try to reframe this. Whatever outcome we were going to have, I would have
Hmm.
been more validating had
Hmm.
those 90 million voted white, because then you would have had the percentage of everyone
Hmm.
participating. And they're
Yeah.
like, okay, this is the majority. This is who
Hmm.
won. This is what's
Yeah.
going to happen. Okay,
Hmm.
fine. That was the majority of people voting, but that's not what happened.
Right. For a true democracy to work, you want to see the majority getting out there and voting. They
Yeah.
need to be able to do that, to exercise that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
So, I know
hard.
we're not gonna solve all those issues in this podcast. I wish we could, but just getting the word out there and getting that awareness out there of so many need to register and then participate in the system. Shift gears for a little bit and talk about your other areas of service with your decluttering coaching that you've done. I often find that, if I'm mindful about once a quarter, I don't always do it once a month, but if I can do it once a quarter as the seasons are changing to kind of go through and declutter what I can, closets, drawers, pantries, the places that I have stuff, I definitely have found that my space is calmer, my brain slows down, and I feel like I can be more focused. So I just would love to hear more about what you do and how you work with people on that topic.
Absolutely. And I think again, it fits in so well with your title because when you're intentional, you're not going to be moving quick. That is absolutely not, that is the opposite of nature. Nothing is fast in nature. And when it is, it's catastrophic, right? So when you want to go far, then it actually means that you get to stop and be intentional about what you're going towards, right? So in my decluttering, so to speak, what happens is there is a process and it's a proven organizing style. I mean, it's worldwide, right? So the process works. That's not even the issue. At the end of it, which is the magic, I believe, is that you become more intentional. So assuming you can get through it, and sometimes, some people are like, why am I doing this? But once they go through it, for whatever reason, however long it takes them, then they come out of it with the fourth, and I think the most pivotal part of how I teach or how I coach is that they become intentional about every single decision they're making. And that then spreads to all areas of their life. So it's not just about the physical environment. It then becomes, how can I declutter everything else in my life? And that is all about intention. So intentionality is the outcome that no one's thinking of when they're going through the stuff. They're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to get organized. No, no, no. That's just like, I would say actually like it's a benefit, but it's not the outcome. The outcome is you become more intentional. And when you're more intentional, you have more clarity, you have more focus, and maybe, just maybe, you'll want to get involved a little more to make the earth a better place, right?
Yeah, I think I see it as in a three touch points, mind, body, and soul. And that's the wellness cycle that I tend to kind of go through. And so I think the mind, thinking about what you can declutter mentally, physically, and then also if you're, going through any kind of spiritual awakening or just kind of deciding what you want to focus on or that you're, researching an area for more information, whatever it looks like. I think if you have a purpose, you're going to have more intention behind it and then you're going to follow through on it.
Big yes. And like I said earlier, my intention to all my health and wellness passion was never to be in an industry that is wellness and health and so forth. It was just because I was passionate about it. But when I finally realized, well, wait a minute, if I'm passionate about it, it makes sense that I can utilize it to its fullest extent. But it took me 40 plus years to realize that, right? And that's crazy. But again, intention, when you have intention, then everything becomes a lot clearer, a lot quicker, like instantaneously sometimes, quite literally.
Yeah, people are going to always be interested in what they can do to live a better life. And I think whether it's now in the fall or in the winter as you're gearing up for spring or any time of the year, I think it's a good time to kind of think about what you need to let go of. What do you truly need in your life? Whether it be a program that you want to support with volunteer hours or service, or if it's stuff that you want to have in your house. Do you need it all? Does it continue to serve you? And what does that look like? So, Kathy, if people are asking themselves these questions, what are some practical routines that you might suggest for them to kind of go through?
So, cool question. And I will look at it in what you just said about seasons. We are cyclical creatures, and especially females, right? We literally follow the moon cycle, right? And with that said, we are seasonal. And so our bodies move with those seasons. And it doesn't matter when this is airing because we are in a different season each and every day, right? Meaning that we're not the same that we were yesterday. And a season is around 3 months, right? So whether you're listening to this, when it originally comes out or whether it's a year from now, it's still going to actually be relevant. Why? Because we're seasonal creatures. So with that, my point is where you're at right now, maybe you're not ready to take on any type of decluttering. But guess what? You might, just might, be interested in learning more about decluttering. So you start maybe searching on YouTube for videos. Maybe you read an article here and there. That's a step forward. And that's the second part of that. Just take one action. It doesn't have to be daily. It doesn't have to be seasonally, but take some action towards whatever you're seeking out because that's intention. And the universe answers that, right? And sometimes it comes up out of nowhere and you're like, okay, this is a perfect opportunity, even if you weren't expecting it. But because the intention was set back way when, all of a sudden now you're, okay, I guess I'm going to do this right now. Who knew? So ultimately, I just think it goes to realizing that as seasonal creatures, it's okay to take a step back, stop, think about what do I want to look like in a year? Or what do I want to feel like? What do I want life to be like in a year? If you can imagine that, right? And assuming you get there, well, look, you just take one little step towards it. And it doesn't have to happen overnight. In most cases, it's not going to. But just that intention set can help get you a little bit further down the road.
Yeah, I think if we just take a moment to pause, we can figure out what we want to do next. And it could be, like you said, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or just next week. It just depends on what we want to focus on. And yeah, we've got all the answers. We just have to figure out what we want to focus on. So, so what are you doing any kind of decluttering right now personally? Anything you're working on?
So it was interesting because based on all the chaos, that we're feeling for the longest time. Now I've gone through my own decluttering, right? And I've stayed decluttered. It's just, and I'm organized for life, right? But sometimes she gets stagnant, quite literally. And so my closet, even though it's not at all, in disarray, for the longest time, the last 2 months, I'm like, this is starting to bother me. Usually it gives me joy, but I'm like, I think I'm stagnant. And so I did take the time. I'm like, okay, for a month, this has been on my mind. So obviously there's something going on. So I took the time. It only took me like not even a few hours, but I'm like, okay, let me see how this is going to work out. And I rearranged stuff. And it didn't take a lot of time because, again, I was already organized. But the after effects, I felt refreshed. And all I did was move things around and, you know,
Yeah.
rearrange stuff. It wasn't like I went crazy. So something as simple as changing your view can have a dramatic effect. And I think right now, living in this type of scenario that we're in as an activist, it's helpful to get different perspectives, even if it's just in your own space, simply because then you're going to see or think of new things or new ideas and not even realize that it was because of you changing up your environment.
Yeah. Like I was watching The Edit the other day, and they've got that popular Netflix series, like Marie Kondo does too. They're similar in the way that they declutter. They do the whole like take everything out of your closet and put it all in a pile and then go through your sorting process. But I like the way the Edit girls put everything in the Roy G. Biv rainbow color with the spectrum, so you can see, and it helps me because I realize I don't have a lot of one color or any of one color, and I really live in like these colors. And so it's just interesting how much black I have in my wardrobe. And I'm like, I need to bring more color. I don't have a lot of yellow. What's that about? I have like one piece of orange clothing. The rest of it is green and blue and black. So it's just interesting.
Well, and some people prefer not to have a lot of choices, like quite literally,
Yeah.
and that's for multiple reasons. A good friend of
Mm,
mine, she is a coach, a vegan centered coach, and
mm,
she literally wears black and red like every day. Like that is her MO. But it's because she has other interests, right? She has a lot of different hobbies that are professional hobbies, quite literally. So the last thing she wants is a lot of decisions on what am I going to wear. So she literally has like black and red in her wardrobe, and that's okay, right? And to your point, you want something that's going to uplift you. So why not the rainbow, right? You notice I want the rainbow. So I like that too. I like the idea of having I like bright colors for sure.
Yes, and I know which colors make me feel good. So I need to be more, when I'm shopping. And I've actually interviewed somebody recently who's all about natural fibers and upcycling. So, and I've been one to dabble. I go to Goodwill and shop at Goodwill, but I want to be more cognizant of that when I think about the materials that I purchase
Yes.
and the colors too.
And it's that idea of, okay, how can I maximize my time, basically? What it comes down to. As for me, I have minimized a lot of my life, but to your point, I still want certain parts of my life need to have a lot of pop, a lot of color, right? So that's what I think about. It's like, okay, how can I add color without weighing myself down?
Like that. And I have a goal of editing as much as I can out of my closet because I don't wear probably 50% of the stuff I have. So that tells me I need to purge. Yeah. If I haven't worn it in the last year, I need to let it go.
With
Yeah.
gratitude, but nonetheless, someone else will get the happiness to use it.
Yes, I agree. I agree. That's a beautiful way to put it. And I think, there is that, I do believe there's a spiritual element to decluttering. I think you lift your spirits and you lift your energy if you can do whatever editing you can do. But let's talk a little bit, kind of go back to that piece that we touched on at the beginning, that work life balance. Is it possible to have that work life balance? And what might be some practical steps if you think it would be possible day to day?
Balance is going to have a different meaning to one person versus another, right? And it's obviously going to depend on the person's experience. I think when they decide, when that decision has been made, somehow I need to make a change, then anything can be possible, right? And so they can seek out help. Maybe they ask loved ones, hey, can you help watch so and so for a while? They will start finding ways, I think, regardless. And it just depends on how far they want to take it, right? Like, what are their resources? And so, to answer the second part, then, like, what type of tips? I would actually say, what is it in your life right now? What is it that gives you pause more often than not? And that may say, well, there's everything. Well, believe it or not, there is something that can even maybe jolt you awake from your slumber. That I would say would be the mark of, okay, this is what I get to focus on. Because yeah, we could multitask, especially as females, but it's not opportune, right? That's not a wonderful way to be balanced because multitasking means that we're not utilizing our brain as well as we could. And in some cases it's definitely not helping the brain. So my tip would be decide and again, it doesn't have to be something strenuous. Like maybe you're like fed up with the fact that, whoever you live with isn't taking the trash out when they're supposed to, or they're not sharing responsibilities. Well, guess what? If the trash is causing you to like get upset, guess what? That's something you can just pinpoint on. It doesn't have to be anything strenuous or like life changing. Anytime that your nervous system gets hijacked, that's telling you something. So when you find yourself upset over why wasn't the trash taken out, then you got to ask yourself, how can I make a simple change or address this issue? Because that one issue, I can assure you, once you let your nervous system settle down on that issue because you've solved it or at least thought about it on a way to fix it, other issues are going to pop in your head, but you're going to have a different view because you've tackled this one issue, because you've proven to yourself and your brain, I can handle this. And you get confident that way. You build your confidence.
Yeah, because I think we realize it's really not about the trash. It's about whatever feeling we get when that issue comes up. And it'll probably lend itself to some other issues that arise around that, and kind of get you to walk through that process of just recognizing it acknowledging it and addressing whatever it is that you're dealing with. So yeah, I mean, balance for me has, it looks different every day. So I think it's fair to say, like you said, it looks different for everybody. Absolutely. I think it just depends on everybody's definition, which can change.
Yeah, and it can change from, like you just said, day to day easily. I always go back to, and all the different mentors I have and still have, I always go back to the first personal development book that I read, and it was Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements. And anyone listening, look it up, but it's really simple. It's be impeccable with your word, don't assume, don't take anything personally, and do your best. Now, your best, to your point or just earlier, doesn't mean perfection because that doesn't exist. Your best means today in this moment, how can I give my best to whatever task I'm up to? How can I give this person my best? And again, not perfection, because if I'm sick and I'm supposed to give a talk, well, guess what? I have the choice. I can unfortunately cancel on them and take care of me, or I can maybe show up, but I'm not going to be 100%. So they have to know that, and I have to give them that choice, right? Your best looks different every single moment. So give yourself the grace and realize my best is going to be different than it is from this moment to the next.
I totally agree with that. And that was actually the book that I did as a book study my first year as a principal in an elementary setting. Because as a leader, people think that you're like this. I don't know what necessarily what people perceive you as a leader. I think they forget that you're human and that you're going to make mistakes. And so it was me basically saying, look, I'm going to do my best or do my best to do my best. And I'm going to follow these four agreements. And I'm just asking that you could do the same. So I think that's a great book. If you haven't read that one, definitely consider adding it to your reading list.
The simplest tasks or the simplest ideas aren't always easy to implement. Thus, get help,
Right.
however that looks for
Yes.
you.
Yes. So speaking of, coaches need coaches, and anybody out there thinking about being a coach or getting, a coach in your corner to support you and help you, Cathy, how can people find out more about what you offer?
Sure. The easiest way is to email me at cathyhannaperez@gmail.com. And or I also have a calendar. So if you were to go to any of my socials, which literally are Cathy Hannah Perez, reach out to me and then we can start talking. I always choose to test what is, your goal. If it's a good fit, then we can move forward. Again, I have literally like three different ways to help people that connect. But someone's going to get to choose one way or another how they want to work with me if they so choose to.
Great. So you have a menu of options that you offer, and it sounds like that you are continuing your activism out in the world. So that is amazing. Again, we just want people to register and get involved. And so that was the whole point of that opening conversation. And coming back to that at the end, I think it's great to get involved in your community, and the more you can get the word out there about whatever is important to you is a great way to start. So register to vote, and then please vote in the next election in whatever way that you decide. But it's just getting your voice out there and doing that is going to be a start.
Yeah, I think that is such a wonderful message. And if I could just expand on that, if all you did, quite literally, yes, people are talking about, oh, I need to get involved. Guess what? If you register and then register three other people and then you all educate each other, you don't ever have to go out anywhere if you don't want to. That would still be democracy at work.
Yes, exercise your right to vote. Let's get out there and do it. Well, thank you, Cathy. I appreciate your time. This has been a great conversation. It's been, just enlightening for me just to think about the 90 million out there that haven't made that choice to do something. And so I'm hoping that, we can just get a couple, three more people is something to get
Even
the word
one.
out there. Yeah, just one more, right? Okay, well, thinking about what's one less thing you can take out of your closet and one more thing that you can add to your community. I appreciate your time and thank you for coming on the Go Slow to Go Fast podcast.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's it for today's show. And if there's one thing that you take away from this conversation, I hope it's this. Democracy requires participation, and participation requires well-being. Whether you're volunteering, organizing, advocating, or simply showing up informed and ready to cast your ballot, this month, in special elections, local primaries, and every November, just remember that your voice matters, your vote matters, and your energy matters. Taking care of yourself isn't stepping away from the mission, it's fueling it. So as local elections approach, stay informed, show up, rock your vote in whatever way aligns with your values, and make sure you're nourishing your body and mind along the way. Because leadership isn't just about the policies debated in chambers. It's about the people who sustain the work behind the scenes. Until next time, stay engaged, stay energized, and know the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light shine through. Go slow to go fast, and thanks for listening.